Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting. Yes, I'm back after just an hour, but this time we're talking comics. We're going to be talking 100 Bullets. And with me, I got my 100 Bullets crew. I got this guy who's like been bouncing up and down in his chair like a little kid. Like he's just ready to go.
Yay.
I'm a little too excited for this, but that's okay.
I just want to have fun talking about some of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in comics.
Oh yes, I mean this is there's some stuff that goes down in these books for sure. Sounds like I'm a man, Dave Ayers. I don't know how you follow that interest, Adam.
I don't either.
So, does he even want to?
Yes. Yeah,
he's like, I'm leaving this show. I'm good.
All right. So yes, we are working our way through 100 Bullets. We are talking volume 7 and 8, which is the completion of the first Omni, which is the first 58 issues. So yeah, we got Samurai and Hardway. Both. We got my man Coach Vic in the chat. What is going on, sir? Glad to see you. He's like, a series I've actually read. Nice. So always a little better when you've read these because we are full on spoilers. So yeah, we are diving back in. John, before we started this, you were like, oh, we're ready for 7 and 8. And you were like, got all excited. What is it, just in general, before we get into the details, that you love about these two volumes? I
think it gives pretty much all my favorite characters moments to shine. It has huge twists that I did not see coming, a bunch of different ones. It really leans into the nice noir elements that I always like about the series. The cities and locations play a big character through this volume, and I love that aspect. And then it has my single favorite issue in the run, which is 50, the sort of standalone solo issue with Vic. Yeah. I love that issue, and it's a wonderful like midpoint where they really give you a lot of meat as far as what the big view of this universe is.
Yeah, they probably start giving you some of the meat. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that issue 50 is very Reservoir Dogs, and we'll get to there, like, for sure. Adam, what did you think, just impression as you dove into these two, about these two volumes?
Hey, there's a lot here. There really is.
We probably should have split this apart. John tried to get me to, and I was like, I want to like keep moving, but I don't know. So we might be here for like 3 hours. I don't know.
And there's so many twists and turns that, like, oh, he's still alive. Yes. Oh, they came back to him. And oh, he's got, another part to play. Oh.
Yeah. I do think that was one of the more interesting thing about this is they look back to several characters, including Loop, that maybe we thought were done with or not necessarily going to play a bigger role in the second half of this. So yeah, volume 7.
Around. I mean, alive. I said they're not even alive.
Yeah.
Or ones that you thought were going to be around for a while that are dead.
Yes.
We get that too.
We get a little bit of that too, for sure. So any other thoughts before we start diving into this? Just in general? Okay. So yeah, we jump back and we find our boy Loop in prison after his murder rap because he killed somebody without using the gun, dummy. And we see that he's still managing to find himself in trouble consistently. He basically took out the big bad in the prison, but in a way that the guy is gonna like come back for him in a few days. So Loop and the guards aren't exactly gonna like help him out any in this. So Luke's trying to negotiate his way through this. What did you think of, Adam, just of this, of finding Loop again and kind of his circumstances and the portrayal of prison in this particular story? Like the way Azzarello like tells us in this world what prisons are like. What did you think about his portrayal here?
I didn't really think we'd circle back to him that much. I did find it interesting that, what got him in trouble before, the just reacting to whatever happens, and just, you know,
Impulsivity.
impulsive, the impulsiveness, and the lashing out at, whatever, he's got to show that he's the man,
Yeah.
very well could have normally got him killed.
Yes.
It comes close a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luke has not learned his lesson about impulse control at this point.
No. And it shows the prison is, horribly gritty and on all terms, like just in general, and, in the people involved in it, from the guards to the prisoners to everything.
Yeah. I do think it is an interesting showcase of Luke that we get in his first issue or so, of the fact that, he's gotten himself in more trouble because he hasn't figured out his mistakes, which is the impulse control. But he also clearly draws people to him, as he's got a lot of friends already in this place, including people you wouldn't necessarily think would be friends with him. And, he's buddied up to the white supremacists that are in the prison. And, so he's got friends on both sides of things. So you get to see the dynamics of his personality, as well as he's still not really learning any real lessons here. So what about you, John? What did you think of this?
I was going to say, I sort of disagree, because what I think we get a little, and obviously it's across the whole storyline in this issue, or this little plot, this story.
4 or 5 issues that we get here.
You get to see that he's learning how to use other pieces on the chessboard besides himself.
Yes.
Right. I think for the most part, he's always been I'm going to be the every piece on the board. I'm going to do everything myself. And he sees a little bit of how to, if I manipulate the guard, he might take out this problem for me. If I buddy up to this person, they might take out this. So there's a little bit of him playing chess instead of checkers here. And yes. I think that he's not great at it.
No.
He's definitely still learning.
I guess,
and that is also the point of this storyline too, because as we get into Lono and his job, I think that there is the concept here that he's got a lot of learning to do, but on his own, without a lot of guidance. And clearly his dad wasn't a very good guide in the last arc. I think you see him coming up with strategies to stay alive.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because we see that he's put himself in this position through his lack of impulse control, but you do see him trying to okay, how do I get myself out of this? How do I use the guards, use the friendships I've made, use the things to avoid door number 1 and door number 2. But then we get to see door number 3 arrives, who I just assumed when he got shot 37 times in the last episode would be dead. But no, there's our man Lono. He cannot be put down by.
I gotta ask each of you, what was your reaction when you saw that page? And I'm assuming your face was like Loop's face, but
Dave Harris, you go first, man.
Yeah, it was. I did not expect that at all, and I can't remember exactly how I felt, because I went too far last time we read, and I read this section last time we read.
Okay.
So it's been a little bit since I read it the first time, but even going back and rereading it, it's still oh yeah. That's a surprise.
JP.
Yeah, so the read up in the page before, when the white supremacist guy is talking about, there's a guy coming that we got to leave alone or whatever, that we're supposed to stay out of the way of or whatever, and it says cop killer, and I'm like, oh shit. But I kind of thought when I turned the page before I saw him that that's where we were going. But yes, it was pretty much, oh nope, you're not getting rid of him that easy. And I will say that in the last volume, when he got gunned down, I was like, wow, I'm surprised they're ending him like this. I figured there would be more. And so from that standpoint, it's like, okay. But it was like, dude, he got, well, even look at his jacket. He's
His
still
jacket.
wearing, look at all
I
the
love
bullet
that
holes
he's
in it.
wearing the leather jacket with like 5 holes in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
like,
the bandage just underneath it.
yeah,
No shirt.
you know, so it's like, okay, well, apparently,
Usually
you
he's
know,
got his Hawaiian shirt, so he's wearing no shirt.
no shirt. His Hawaiian shirt got ruined, but you know, he still got that leather jacket because he ain't gonna give that up. So, so we get Lono is in prison, and we get to see that he like. I love the interaction at the very right off the bat. He comes in, he's like, "Okay, I need this, this, and this, and this," and the guy's like, "Okay, well, what do you got so I can get that for you?" He's like, "No, you're just gonna get it for me." Just like,
The only thing I've got is a love of cigars. That's
yeah, I mean,
He does it in the middle of the shower, buck naked. He just strolls right up to this guy, and he just is like, "You're the tough one, right? Here's what I need. Give me all the stuff I want."
yeah, get all the shit I need, and I'm gonna beat the crap and just intentionally beats the crap out of him, and then disappears within the prison. Like they can't find him until he decides that he wants to be found. Like, so what did you think all here, Adam? As we're getting this story, like what's going on with Lono, and like Luke's like, what the,
it's just more Lono. I mean, it's hard to describe because it's so unbelievable, but it fits with him, Yeah.
Well, he's the mad dog. I mean, he is like a force of nature in a certain way. Yeah.
That's Lono for me, barking at the police dog that's gonna raid his shell or his cell.
Yeah.
That's Lono for me. He's just like, I don't care about any of this. I'm just a wild animal here.
Yeah. So ultimately, like Luke realizes that he's still trying to figure out a way out of his circumstances. He knows Lono is probably gonna it's basically already came in and said, "Yeah, you work for me. Like you're gonna be my bitch." He's got to deal with the other guy that he put in the hospital already. So
another guy you just killed. I mean, he just mysteriously died in his sleep.
Yeah.
Because
his roommate.
His roommate just died in his sleep.
Yeah, happens. I love that, and it's like they can't figure. He didn't leave any marks. So it shows that he's not just a brute. It's like he knows how to do it without leaving evidence that he did it, and it's just So he's like, it's like I want to sell to myself. It's just like the guy doesn't make it one night. So I think the other interesting thing is we do see Shepard.
I'm so glad you went here. Yes, this is the best scene in this storyline for me.
Comes back when Lono is in a cage, literally.
Yep.
He's literally in a monkey cage.
They Hannibal Lectered him.
Yeah, he Hannibal Lectered him. What did you think of the conversation? We'll let you go, John, since you're so excited. What did you think of this conversation between Shepard and Lono?
The dialogue is so good. Each of them is so in their character, in their moment, and the way Lono figures out what Shepard's up to, it spreads over 2 issues, right? It's like in part in one issue, and then we jump to Loop for a bit, and then the beginning of the next issue is where it completes. This is all set up a while back when Shepard said, when Shepard was talking to Graves about we need to train the new guy, and we need to take care of the mad dog. He's like, "Well, you care if I take out 2 birds with 1 stone?" And he's like, "I don't care how you do the math. This is the 2 birds and the 1 stone, right?" He wants to try to get these 2 together and try to get Loop to take advice from Lono and get Lono to become the teacher that Lono's never wanted to be, right? To train him up. I love this scene because Shepard's feeling him out. He doesn't realize he gave away too much information too quickly, because then of course Lono's like, "I know exactly who is in this prison that you want me to teach, and I'm just gonna kill him. Like I don't even care. Like I want to burn this mother down. Like you just fucked up by telling me what you wanted from me. Like you just blew this.
Yeah.
You played all your cards way too early.
I mean, go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
That's what happens and everything, but I just wonder if that was not part of his plan by saying too much to get Lono to realize that. Because I mean, if they're able to get Loop in this jail and Lono in this jail and all this arranged perfectly, is he going to really slip up like that?
No, I think Shepard knows he can't lead this horse to water and make him drink. So he's gonna like put the pieces together and just kind of see if the chemistry experiment works the way he wants. But he can't tell him what he wants, right? He's got to just kind of like play it just enough, close enough to the edge, and then Lono feels like it's his own idea. He feels like he's in charge of his own destiny.
Suitcases and the guns. I mean, you just like,
here are the pieces. Are you going to do what you should do, or what I want you to do? Or are you going to do? So there is that moment of chance here. But I do find it's interesting. The thing I find interesting about this is that even like you said, like Lono's like, oh, you told me too much. I know what you want. I'm going to kill the kid, blah, blah, blah. But the interesting thing is, like you said, I think Shepard knows Lono more than Lono knows Lono in terms of,
for sure, because Lono doesn't care to like self-examine.
No, and really, what we see is what's playing out is Loop is basically on his own efforts to try to like save his own hide. Shepard is betting on that Lono is going to see the potential in the kid and not going to be able to like walk away. Like he's going to be like, okay, yeah, like, and despite himself, because Lono's going to be, because that's the one thing Lono respects is like the ability to do the violence, like to play the game in terms of, not at the level that Shepard and Graves plays it, but at the level like that the Minutemen play it, which is like the ability to take people out and do, get where you need to get the job done. That is what he's looking for. So yeah, we get this finale of, after this great conversation of Loop has managed to get himself into the hospital wing with a weapon to take out the big bad in the prison that he knows is going to come for him in a couple of days. And he's got all the pieces on the board to do this, which is he knows he's got his buddy that's in the white supremacist that's in there that's going to side with him when it comes down to it. And he gets this opportunity and he takes it. And then as the guards are coming in to like, put him down, oh, look, there's also Lono who's going to go nuts. So they both get thrown into solitary. What did you think about the way Loop actually maneuvers and plays this out, Adam?
I was somewhat surprised that he managed to think a little bit more ahead than he had been, because before that, even he was playing chess with the older guy and talking about, oh, I think I've got you now, and he's like, luck's with me this time, and the old guy was like, no, checkmate, yeah. It's 101-0, So, but he managed to sort of pull that one off and get himself out of that by taking care out of 2 out of the 3 doors, and the third one is cooped up as he was too, so he's safe at the moment anyway.
Yeah. And I think to your point earlier about Lono, when Lono's thrown into jail and realizes what Loop did, and how ignorant Loop is of how like you didn't get it, as much as you feel like you played this perfectly, you're right where other people want you to be.
Yeah. And
then Lono's realizing, shit, I'm just as much of an idiot as you. I'm right where they want me to be too. God damn it. So I feel like Lono comes to the same realization. He's just on the same path. He's just a few hundred yards further down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because we get another great scene, which is them side by side in solitary, which I'm not sure how it's solitary if they can hear each other, but but hey, we're telling the story here.
Exactly.
And Lono, and basically Lono gets Loop to tell him his plan, and Loop is like, all proud of himself. And he's like, let's put door number 3 right next door. By the way, fuck away, all the fucking doors slammed. And he's like, and Lono's like, that is funny. So he's like, why aren't you laughing? And this is where, because we're both right where Shepard wants us.
Exactly.
Basically, the joke's on you. You've played and you're doing what they want. And so yeah, which is just any thoughts on that final scene, Adam? Anything to add to that?
Not to that, really. No.
Okay.
Something I did find interesting going back a little bit on the whenever Milo in the conversation about Milo.
Oh, we did skip over that when
how Milo
out about Milo
basically killed himself.
Yeah.
You come to the realization that he
pulled Lono realizes the part he played when he's like, oh shit. Like
that was Milo? Like, because Lono did not know that was Milo.
No. He's like, if that's Milo, he pulled a punch.
About that in that volume where Milo rewrapped his face, even though he had like taken the bandages off and was mostly healed. Before Lono came, he'd rewrapped his face, and he's like, yeah. And they
even talk about Milo at the same way Shepard and Graves. They use the code names for everybody. Oh, that was the whatever. Like they have the little
Milo,
codes.
I forget now.
I can't remember. But like I just thought, that's a great moment where it's like, oh shit, we got to replace Milo. What happened to Milo?
Milo's dead. Best. Nobody gave grief to Graves like Milo did. That was Lono's favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but we also get in that scene. The other thing we skipped over is one of the reasons Lono is not. We find out why Lono has not been on the Croatoa thing, like where the rest of them lost their memories. Is he was not there that night?
No,
when it all went down, and he's like, "Why wasn't I there?" And it's like the same reason you're in here, which is you're both. Like they can control him, but in certain ways. Like they know how to manipulate Lono, but it's not the same way that they can't control him the same way they can control the others. He's got a different.
He doesn't take orders.
No. Yeah. Not direct orders.
No.
Yeah. So. Anything else in this first story arc that you guys want to touch on before we move on?
Let's get to Jack.
All right. So. A character that I did not really think I thought was just going to be, which it turns out none of these characters that get guns are just one-offs, really. Like, really, none of them are. There's always a bigger arc going on here. So, yeah, we go back to the druggy Jack, who was serial killing people in his basement with the gun. But he didn't kill his buddy that he was telling the story to. And they're driving to they're driving to Atlantic City, but they're going to stop at this guy's uncle's.
Yeah.
Tiger Joe, or whatever that guy was that they did.
Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic, basically Tiger Ranch.
Yep.
Before Joe Exotic was a thing, at least in public mind. And we basically get the story of Jack becoming obsessed with these tigers, and we find out what's going on at this ranch. What did you think about this story, Adam? This revisiting Jack.
It's another one I did not think we would come back to.
Yeah.
Not because like with Lono, I just thought he was dead. This one, I just thought the story was over.
Yeah.
I thought that was a one-off that, he would have killed the one guy and then himself. And, that's the way I just sort of read it. And I did not expect him to end up on a tiger ranch.
playing Russian roulette with a tiger. You just sticks your arm and you stick your arm in the cage every once in a while.
Yeah. So what did you think? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
Still doing drugs.
Yeah.
But not as much. I don't know.
I mean, it does appear like he's maybe backed off a little bit, but not much when we start this. The arc here, we see him make a decision related to that. But that's after, like you said, like he sees the tigers and he tosses his gun in there and he's like got his arm in there and like, he becomes obsessed with these things. And these gangsters show up that are going to hunt the tigers, like by which they're just going to like shoot them through the bars. Like, and so, yeah.
After they've been tranquilized.
Well, yeah, after they've been tranquilized so that they don't have to shoot them a bunch of times. So the skins start like full of holes. John, what did you think about returning to Jack here?
I think what Azzarello has to say about addiction is interesting. And I think, what Jack is going through, whether it's the trauma of the work he did here before, or it's the self-loathing that he's clearly carrying with him. I think there's some interesting comments here, and he's got to find his own way to, and I think the briefcase metaphor is for him is either you end this whole thing for yourself, or you find a way to kill this drug addict inside of you, right?
Yeah.
And I think the addiction storyline is interesting. He's got to find his own way through this, right? He's got to find his own way to manage this thing. The monkey on his back, and if we want to continue the animal metaphor for this issue, the saga. And I think that it's really captured well here. You see somebody at a crossroads in their life and really struggling to navigate it. And then something about seeing this pure killer, this animal that is just all instinctual self-preservation hunter killer, activates something in him. It creates something in him, and he feels like this caged animal. He wants to free this thing. He throws his gun in there as I don't want this thing anymore. I want to give it to the killer. The killer should have it, right? The beast should have it. I'm using it wrong. I know instinctively that I'm using this tool wrong. There's a lot of really great, I think, metaphor in going on in this storyline, but then also the storyline itself is just buck wild.
It's ridiculous. It's over the top. I mean,
I love it. So for me, it works really well on several levels, and I think that's when these comics are most interesting to me, is when the subtext and the text are all like working together, and you get a really interesting layered story.
So yeah, no, I agree with that, because it's really about, like, we see the purposes, and I assume in the last half of this book that we're going to see Jack again, and that he's getting recruited in some sort of way into this bigger story arc. Yeah, we see him basically making some weird ass freaking decisions as he goes through this, but which he's been doing the whole time. But yeah, we end up with, dead gangsters, and like the cop comes that's in on it, but not in on murder, and like all the crap hits the fan, and seemingly somehow Jack comes out the backside of this, and they just let the tiger go on a beach. Like, go ahead, Adam.
Well, no, that's what I was just saying, on the beach. And what was interesting is what beach it was where they were at.
Yeah, because they're not very far from Atlantic City.
No, and he was headed to Atlantic City, which I found very interesting.
Which is where they were headed to start with, which we don't know, like, if that had to do with anything or not. We see part of his conversation with Graves this time, or more of his conversation with Graves. And, it's basically, we see Graves talking him through that. And I told you you put the gun in my hand and told you what you already know, that I'm worthless. No, that shit stain rubbed into your skin is yours and yours alone. You can blame whoever you like, but can you admit who's really at fault? And that's, what Graves is sitting on. Can you admit that, like, you're the reason your life sucks is you? Can you use this as a way to find your way out? And via staring at a tiger and letting it rip his arm open and then shooting some gangsters.
Well, he does shoot some people, but for me, I love the idea that at the end he's weaponless and just like They don't even show you. They just have him like pouncing on this guy.
Yeah.
Is it the
cop.
the cop, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He pounces on this cop and you cut away.
Yeah.
And he just tore this guy up with his bare hands. He just tore this guy up.
Yeah.
And it is the tiger in Jack, right? That is unleashing here. And it's not to say that he's not, all healed or something like that, but I do sense that that he's coming to terms with the animal inside of him and willing to use it to whatever ends. So for me, yeah, I love that final panel with him in the fight mode where he's just like a raving monster. Like you can't even fully see his face. You see his teeth and his eyes. It's this one if you want to you just see him in shadow and he is just absolutely a monster. And the cop doesn't even see him coming. He's just like the tiger got let out of its cage, but so did Jack. Jack got let out. And I think there's some really interesting, again, the metaphor is playing out really well there.
So, Adam, do you have any, before we get to the very last scene here, which I want to talk about, anything about that you want to add?
No, that pretty much covered it. That the tiger escaping and him escaping, the parallels between them.
Yeah, them letting the tiger go, and then he leaves his buddy at the same spot. And I wanted to get to that scene because his buddy asked him, like, hey, Jack, all them times you put the gun in my face, why did you never kill me? And he's like, why did you not leave me after I did it the first time? And, like his friend, and he's like, basically, because they talk about it, he's like, I'm going to go with, and during their conversation, it's basically like he asked his buddy if he's going to get clean too. And he's like, his buddy's not ready yet. So Jack's like, okay, well, I'm leaving. But he's like, and headed to the thing. And like, nothing about Atlantic City, just a place where nobody wins. He's like, I hear that, nothing but losers there. And he's like, yep, I'll fit right in as he's headed that way. But he's made the decision to be clean. He still has the suitcase and he's starting something new. Now, what that's going to be, we don't know.
And little does he know he's heading back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Where the shit all went down, right?
Yeah. What we don't know is at this stage, is Jack new or is he old to this game at this point? So is he a new recruit or is he just someone they haven't said the word to yet? So we don't know that yet at this stage.
No.
But something is driving him back to Atlantic City, which makes you think that maybe he's old to the game. But there's no.
But we're aware that it's a centerpiece for a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
He's just drawn there, like you said, like a moth to that flame.
Yeah. Okay. You guys have anything else you want to speak about Jack here?
Issue 50. Issue 50.
Right.
Issue 50.
So, Reservoir Dogs, issue 50. So, we meet Victor for the first time in issue 50. And basically,
the owner of the first briefcase.
Oh.
They show you in flashback in this issue that he got the case before Dizzy.
Okay. I guess I missed that. So,
yes, we'll get to it. We can get to it.
Okay, so he got the case before Disney. I guess I didn't register that when it happened.
It's the second to last page of this.
Oh, because when he says he's going to see about a girl. Yeah. Okay.
He said he was on his way to go see some girl. He said a word to me. He whispered a word to me, and
Victor already had the word been said to him.
Yeah.
And he is basically, we see him and two other people that have come back from. Basically, they pulled a robbery, and they're waiting to transfer the goods to another guy. But the robbery didn't quite go as planned because one of them basically got caught or got separated and followed, and they had to leave him, which is the brother of the guy that they're selling the goods to when he shows up. So as they're waiting to find out if the other guy got away or if he's been caught or what's happened, Victor's Heart's telling the story. So we get background here on the Trust, on the Minutemen. Adam, what did you think of the start? We don't get all of it here, but we get the start, the beginnings of how they formed What did you think about this information about the Minutemen?
Really interesting. I found, how they tied it into Roanoke and all that type of stuff. I knew there had to be a connection with the word and everything, but I didn't know how. It was interesting to read that. It was interesting to see that, the whole thing started by the 13 families, wanting to have all the power in a new place and just, leave. But King, like, no, I guess it was the Queen thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The 13 original colonies there, right?
13 original colonies, yeah.
And the 7 Minutemen who came to distribute justice on the part of the families.
So what did you think of this, John? This is your issue here.
This is it. This is the book I took to Brian Azzarello and had him sign in Baltimore when I met him. I was like, I'm taking issue 50. That's the one. Just because for me, it was when the mythology and the plot like linked for me. Like it all kind of came together. Like, okay, now the mythology being the greater story that everybody's inside of, and then the plot being the timeline, the present, and the characters that, despite their desires, are caught up in this, right? And Vic tells the story so well. I think I love his speech, which is just like one epic monologue interrupted by
gunplay and almost getting caught and him killing a whole bunch of people and
and it all starts because somebody's drinking Snapple and says it's because of the Klan, which is hilarious to me. Like the whole beginning when the guy's like, oh, that's a slave ship, this has got a big K on it because of the Klan or whatever, and he's like you're buying into what they're telling you, but the deeper story is a lot more interesting. He's like, let me tell you the bigger story. And he launches into this, and then he continues to tell it all the way through to the end. Like they give him word bubbles while he's mowing people down in the street. He's still telling I don't know who he's talking to out there.
13 families, 7 men, like, and he's out in the middle of the street. It's like
he's just blowing people away in the middle of the street. He's unloading guns. He's catching guns in the midair and then catching bodies and using them as shields. And he's still telling the story. I freaking love the whole thing. It's so over the top. It's so over the top, and I absolutely love it. I can almost hear I don't know, like Hong Kong action music playing in the background or something here. I want Chow Yun Fat playing Vic is what I mean.
Yeah. And so, we get the whole thing. And like, even at the end, it's like, as he walks out, like he's telling the end of the lady's like, well, how's the story end? He's like, well, like any good story with tears, because she's crying because her kids are dead. And like his partners in this robbery are dead and everything else. And he's just like, very so nonchalant, unaffected the entire issue about everything.
I'd love to hear from you, JP, what you thought of Vic, because he obviously talks a bunch and he has some good ideas about like, oh, he should just fall out and die. Like he's giving interesting advice all the way through.
Yeah.
And then when Vic the killer shows up, obviously he's stone cold for the last 6 pages. Well, what were your thoughts? What were your takes on Vic? Because this guy comes onto the scene in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, he was stone cold the whole time. Like they're like waiting, and then the whole time he's just like unbothered by any of the stuff that went down or went wrong, or the Harley coming in and being like, "No, we're not doing this deal until my brother's safe," and he's just like, okay, I'll tell the story. He's just like, I'll get back to my story then. It's just like,
your brother's gonna die.
Yeah, he's like, your brother's not gonna. Your brother's not gonna no choice here, and you're not saving him. And it's just like, it's super interesting that he, much like some of the others, like he now has his memories, and yet he's still just like, oh, I'm gonna be a part of this robbery or whatever, and he's just using his skills. And I forget what they call him. Because I think they say later
the nickname that Graves and Shepard use for him.
Yeah, used for Vic, and I forget which one it is.
I can never keep those nicknames clear in my head. I should probably be better about that.
But anyway, I mean, he is like, in a lot of ways, it'll be interesting to see, like, as we've seen this, but he is clearly the most unflappable of the ones that we've seen so far. Like, just like, even even killed, like it doesn't matter. Like he's like you said, he's blowing people away, and he's still just telling the story. And it's just like no. So yeah.
What about you, Adam? What were your thoughts on because he ranks pretty high on my favorite characters. He's like this like Shepard Graves blend almost in some ways.
Yeah.
But like, what were your takeaways on him?
I found it very interesting, you know, that he just continued, you know, along with the story, even, you know, while he was shooting up everyone, and how it sort of lined up. You know, he talked about how that on the island, you know, everyone was dead, and you look around and almost everyone is dead where he's at. You know, there's the semblance there, you know, that, and you know, how he's just, you know, begging people in the middle of the head, you know, and just,
He doesn't seem to miss.
no.
So I love when he says like so the one guy from the robbery finally makes it to the meetup point, and he's like, you got to call him back and tell him to die. They're like, what the hell? He's like, hey, he might shake his tail. Like that first, they're like, you got to tell him to die. What the hell is wrong? No, he's got to fake it. He's got to make him go away. But yeah, of course, that doesn't end up working because you know the brother can't handle it. But then when the gunfight breaks out and everybody's dying, everybody's making stupid choices, and Vic's just in there watching it all happen. And that the girl gets shot and she's dropping the gun, and then he just catches the gun in midair and just starts mowing these guys down. I just was like, the panel. This is for me. Eduardo Rizzo really crushes these panels. Like it feels like a movie. Like it's so cinematic, and it's like it's got great tempo and great pacing. And again, like you're saying, he keeps telling the story. He's still doing it, but then he's dropping this gun. He's picking up another gun. Now he's shooting two guns. He's shooting two guys. They try to run him over. He shoots through the windshield. The car flies over him and it explodes. And he's just walking through it. Like again, it's like a Hong Kong action movie, and he's just the only guy left.
Yeah, you talk about like the panel, he catches the gun, and the next panel, as he shoots the guy between right in the forehead, he's saying, "Man, walked into the gully." It's just like, you know.
I just love absolutely all of it. And he still talks all the way back to when he gets back to the bar, picks up the keys. He just goes through the whole thing, gives her the keys, walks off. He's finished the job. He tells the story. And then of course he drops that one flashback panel set where he's like, I didn't really know that story until I was reminded of it by this crazy old guy who gave me a briefcase and whispered a word in my ear, said he was off to meet something. I love that little nugget dropped there so beautifully. So yeah, my favorite single issue of the whole series is this one. I can't get enough.
Yeah, it's a really good issue. It's really well told, and like you said, and we get the lore. So we get what we think is one of the things they've been telling us all along is there was an incident that basically started this, that the Minutemen did, and they asked Graves to do it again, and he refused. Well, the implication here is the incident was Roanoke, that they wiped out this colony to send the message. So the question is, who were they supposed to wipe out that Graves refused? That comes to me out of this book. And so I don't think we get any closer to what is it that caused Graves to walk away that set this story in motion. So that was interesting to me. At the halfway point, we finally know, okay, they were basically ordered to wipe something out to start this off, like wipe out all these colonists. So what were they asked to wipe out in order to keep this going, and that they refused to do? So any other thoughts on issue 50, Adam, before we move on?
No.
All right. Well, I know John doesn't like this character at all, but I guess we'll talk about Wiley a little bit.
We have to.
Good old Wiley times.
Wiley times. Going to New Orleans, and basically he's been heard the word, and so or no, he hasn't gotten. Did he get? I forget now. When did he get Croatoa?
It's
in this.
It's in here.
It's in here, but he's been given the briefcase by Graves that's caused him to go back to New Orleans.
Which, it led him on a bit of a self-reflection, but he's definitely still kind of in a. What's interesting because the story takes place in two timelines, right? This plot jumps back and forth between him wearing the black suit again,
yes,
and him Still just being a freaking slob, drinking his beer all day
wearing
long.
the black suit, threatening to kill Shepard, and then being a slob, first arriving in New Orleans.
Because he's telling the story from the future, right? In his black suit, like playing with a garrote, like he's going to strangle somebody, but he keeps jumping to the present where he's like, just being an idiot, like he always is.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we're getting that he has a history in this city. He ends up getting tangled with people. Shepard and Dizzy end up showing up again. And even though he knows at this point Shepard's responsible for his, situation to a degree. So we get this playing out. He's being hunted. They end up he's being hunted by a member of the Trust, sees him and recognizes him. His buddy, it turns out him and Dizzy accidentally saw his buddy and kill somebody with a bear trap.
The most fucked up thing. I mean, the bear trap scene, I will say, it haunts me to this day. Like it is
so effed up.
All the bear trap scenes.
Yes.
Several bear trap
the final
scenes.
one is
it's hard. It's rough.
So hard.
Yeah.
And so we see Wiley kind of his journey from the slob, don't care, back to being a Minuteman is what we get in this arc. Adam, what did you think about the way they tell the story of Wiley Times here?
There's so much there. And so many, I don't want to, not only was there, like the present day, in the black suit and the slob kind of stuff, but there's also him at the slob point remembering some of the past.
Yes.
But not all of it, knowing that, he lost the love of his life, but not really remembering why.
Yeah. Or how.
But knowing that, what was it, Graves? Was it Graves or was it
Shepard?
Shepard was responsible for it.
Yeah.
Responsible for it.
Well, sort of. I mean,
that's who he got the picture of.
Yes, that's who he got the picture of.
And the brief, the picture of the girl that he loved.
Yeah.
Which he remembered her name, and that started him on, the huge bender that he had.
Yes. And I love how, like, in the first half of the book, because we know he's just a super slob, and everybody's like, you smell, and they keep spraying him with water. And he's like, come on. I took a bath last week.
It's time to wash my clothes, but not take a bath yet.
What about you, John? What do you think about the way they tell the story here of Wiley?
I love it. This I've told you from the beginning. This is my favorite volume. This is my favorite story. This Wiley Times story. It has everything I want, which is like really weird, dark humor, incredibly graphic violence, plot twists that I didn't see coming, and my favorite character is Wiley. I just absolutely am riveted anytime he comes on. And in this, he feels like New Orleans. If New Orleans was a person, I feel like it would be Wiley. And so to place it there where, jazz music, love it or hate it, it's just like Wiley. It's all over the place. You never know where it's going. It has a structure, but you can't quite understand it. And there's Wiley. He's just such a sloppy, for a guy whose nickname is the Point Man, he is sloppy as heck. And to watch him kind of find his cool again is interesting to me. And I think they do a really good job between the two previous stories and this one of shaping his journey.
Yeah. And I mean, we get here because it's interesting when they get to, because one of the families is there, the Madrids, I guess, right? And like, who sees him in town, and it's like, oh, he's here. We're gonna, like, and tries to like take him out because, as we'll find out why, like that dad knows who he is and is hunting him. We'll find out as we go. But I love the scene when Shepard's at the guy's house, and after Wiley's gotten his memories completely back, and he comes to knock it. And Shepard starts describing, because we've seen Wiley is just he's anything but precise. And yet, when he's on the job, that's exactly like the way he's described. There's no like
wasted shots.
No wasted shots, no extra. This is not Lono. There's no extra flair. It's just, I have to do X, Y, Z, boom, 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 done. And so it's an interesting contrast in the character when we finally get to see the Wiley, complete Wiley, I guess, or the original version of him. Because it is kind of this nice dichotomy of like, here's this guy that's just like, yeah, what, but when he's serious, he's like very precise in how he moves about it. What did you think about that aspect of it, Adam, in terms of Wiley's character?
I think it was a nice juxtaposition that, to go from the, sort of all over the place like he was to just, pinpoint precision type stuff that, he is whenever he's wearing the suit, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Anything before we get to kind of how this wraps up here? Any other spots you guys want to jump in that you want to bring up that you loved from this particular volume, John?
I mean, I love so much about how Wiley kind of wakes up. I love the bear trap scene where he first sees them throw a bear trap at this woman, and he just curses. The trail of curses is what ends up getting him caught later on, right?
Yeah.
He says, he starts screaming across the lake. He's like, "Fucking bear trap! Are you fucking?" And he's like cursing, and then they hear him, and then later on, it's him cursing again. That they're like, that voice sounded. That's the guy, dude. That's the guy that was cursing earlier at the lake that we saw.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. And then of course he, his little wake up, right? That moment when they're basically dead. They're gonna die. And what is it? He talks them into giving him the gun, right? Where is it?
No, he doesn't get the gun. He's like, he asks them to give him a few minutes.
Yeah.
And he has the briefcase, and they don't know what's in the briefcase.
Oh yeah, right. He talks them into giving him. They want him to unlock the briefcase, right?
Show him what's in it. Yeah,
exactly. And then he's telling Gabe, like, don't move, like just stay in one place.
Yeah.
I need to know where you're at. Don't move.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, Gabe doesn't, because it's chaos and gunfire, and then it's killing Gabe that really snaps him too. Yeah. It's killing somebody he cares about, because it reminds him of killing the woman, right? Killing the lady that he was caring about. I like the little shot of Gabe playing the trumpet with the woman he liked. Yeah, as like the thing that is what Wiley's thinking about. Yeah, when he pulls that trigger, and then you cut from that to in the next issue, you have Wiley's version of the Atlantic City event, and you have all the conversation, and now we know so many more faces, right? We see Vic, we see Cole, we see these faces that like
Milo.
It had been kind of hidden from our view, but now we recognize a handful. Like I said, we keep going back to the Atlantic City event, and I think it's interesting to see the perspectives expand a little bit. And of course, from there, like your strengths, we see him go to Madrid and just mow down all the security there, and come in and kill Dad and take Shepard hostage and bring him back to the hotel. And includes Dizzy. He brings Dizzy back tied up as well. I like the bit where so one of the things I like that Azzarello does all through the series is plays on words, right? He does a lot of like, the storyline with Vic was called Pray for Rain, but it's spelled Prey and Reign, right? Rain, like as in the ruler, right?
Right.
And I like that this bit here where it says, I wouldn't worry about him Wiley says to Shepard, I wouldn't worry about anything but your own ass right now. He's like, whatever you decide to do to me doesn't stop me from sweating another's ass right now. He's like, oh yeah, I got to admit, it's a fine one. And he's looking at Dizzy tied up in the other corner of the bed, under the bed.
Yeah.
And then we get this, one of my favorite covers is come on, like lights out.
Yeah.
Friggin' man, Johnson does such a great job on these friggin' covers. So yeah, there's just so much I love in this story. I just think it's really done well. It jumps back and forth well. It escalates well. So yeah, I'm all day long. All day long. This is just such a good story.
So we get again that Dizzy from the beginning has had, going back to their first meeting, has had a weird level of attachment to Wiley. That we'll see if there's more to or what later. But she has been very much, Shepard has put them together for a reason. She has been very much like trying to get Wiley, like when she got sucked into his adventure in Mexico and she got sucked into like here, she's following him around and like she is drawn to him in a way, and he keeps like trying to do this but can't, like not really. And he keeps trying to push her away and can't. And I love the thing that like falls at it, the fine one, and they talk about like how she got like, well, I told her to stay in the bar. Well, I told her to stay in the bar. She didn't listen to either one of us. So that's what I hear. You know, if she just stayed put and listened to either one of us, and they're like, well, she's not very good at that. And he said they wouldn't be. I listened to Graves. I listened to you, and he's like, maybe if you listen to yourself, you wouldn't be here. And we get the reveal in this last issue is why Shepard is the picture in Wiley's case. It's basically this girl we've seen him having flashbacks and memories of that he was in love with. Turns out she was a member of one of the families.
Yeah, she was a Madrid.
Madrid.
Yeah,
and
the daughter.
Which is why the dad, when they seen him, was looking for him. Because we see an event where she's like, oh, I got to leave for a few days. I'm going to Miami, blah, blah, blah. Well, she apparently did what was faux pas in the trust, which is she made a move against one of the other families. Without her dad, supposedly without her dad's knowledge, at least the best that they could prove or they knew at the time. And basically the Minutemen's job was, hey, if somebody moves again, you're protecting the trust from each other. Like you
keep the peace. Yeah.
You keep the peace. So Rose has got to go. And Shepard drives Wiley to be like, here's your mission. And so, and Wiley killed her. At basically, because Shepard told him to, which is why he didn't. We've seen in the Atlantic City scene before we get this reveal that he killed her, was he was like, because Cole said something about, well, you're the one that kicked this all off. And he's like, yep. And I'm going to be happy to not remember it, you know? And we see sort of why he didn't care, because this was the love of his life and he did his job. What did you think of this reveal, Dave Mears? Adam?
That it was, yeah, that was, I mean, I kind of saw that coming a little bit, but you know, it's still a shock. You know, you still think that it wasn't going to be him whenever he's saying, you know, right there towards the end of, you know, that, oh, we'll run away and no one will find us. And then, you know, boom.
Yeah.
So.
And Shepard even says, like, you know, you wouldn't have wanted to be one of the others, because if it had been one of the others, he probably would have killed they would have killed each other, probably. And so, and he knew if he ran, then the two of them he knew what he was going to be hunted by. All the other Minutemen were going to be coming for them. So, but yeah, that doesn't mean. So then we get the scene where he's like, basically, after we get the reveal, he's standing over Shepard and we get the bang. And we don't know, at least initially, we just see him down in the hotel bar before he leaves town, basically giving the girl Gabe's instrument. And then we see him get in the car and Shepard and Dizzy are both alive. What did you think, John? First time you read it, this time you read it, you know, this sequence of events here. from the reveal that he killed her to his decision not to kill Shepard.
I mean, free will is a huge theme, right? It's a huge part of this. You can give them the gun and the bullets. You can drink, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So is Wiley going to succumb to his baser instincts, or is he going to realize Shepard was right? Shepard did him a favor by giving him the chance to kill Rose. Like Shepard did something nice. It was an awful situation to be in, but it was the best way to solve it. And Graves giving him the briefcase was basically saying, can you get over your shit? Like, can you deal with it? Can you deal with the fact that you can be mad at Shepard, but recognize that it was the right call and it was the best choice? And that's what Wiley has to decide. Can he get over that baggage? Is he going to kill Shepard because he can't get over it? Or is he going to acknowledge it, right, and move on? And that's what that moment is for him. And I'm glad. I mean, as a Wiley Times fan, I want more of his journey. If he had gone the other way, it was the end of that story, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is clearly him coming to terms with it and maybe learning a lesson and moving on.
Yeah. What about you, Adam? What did you think of the result here?
I mean, John was right that even though he hated it, that was probably the best solution. In that circumstance, that's what she was going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, and it would have, been rough, but it would have been easier for him to do it than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause if Lono does that, then he's going after Lono, or any of the others. I mean, but yeah. And so you end up, it just results in more if he doesn't do it himself.
Well, and whenever he did it, he knew that, it was done. It wasn't like turning Lono loose on her and, telling what happens,
Yeah. Okay. So anything else with this story before we get to the last issue of this volume?
The only thing was the second bear trap thing with Gabe was just.
Yeah. I mean, that was just. That's the word that when you flip the page, because you see when he starts moving to kill these two guys, you see Gabe get up and run when he just told him to don't move. And the turn when he turns to look at Gabe and the reveal of what's happened to him is
worse than if he would have died. I mean,
because that's the only thing he had was his ability to play music, and he just lost it. And I mean, it's so awful, and it's just, and that, I mean, really, and it leaves Wiley with this decision, like you said, that completely, eventually is what wakes him up completely, is, he kills Gabe, because that was Gabe's whole life, and and
Gabe tried to do it and couldn't.
Yeah, he gave him the opportunity to do it himself, and he couldn't do it, and so Wiley took it out of his hands, and it's
mirrors the Rose
yes.
plot line in a lot of ways, right? The idea that Rose caused this to herself, right, by doing something absolutely foolish, and Wiley had to come in and clean it up.
Yeah. All right. So we get last page here. Shepard's alive. Wiley's not going to kill him. We flip the page. Oh, it's we're back to Lono and Loop, and they flip the page again, and oh wait, Shepard's dying. It's like 2 pages later. So what did you think of this twist here, Adam? As we see Shepard driving alone, apparently bleeding out, calling Lono in prison, basically recruiting Lono to take his job, which I just don't quite understand.
No.
That choice, but what did you think of this?
It seems like it definitely wasn't his first choice.
Well, he said he called one other. He said there was one other that wouldn't take it. Right? Am I remembering that correctly?
There was at least, I think there was one.
I think he said he called one other person or something. But yeah, we clearly see Lono is doing what Shepard told him, which is he's clearly training Loop at this point. Like, and when we get the reveal, they're in thing, and Shepard's like, "You want to be out of prison?" He's like, "I can get you out. You can be out tonight, but you have to take my job because I'm dying." And through the course of this, we get the reveal of that he was driving with Wiley and Dizzy, and Dizzy hears the word and just pulls out the gun and shoots Shepard. So perhaps there's more to Dizzy's story than we realize, that she wasn't like new to this when, Graves showed up. But she also seems like after she does it, seems confused by like why she did it. Like the word has triggered her to do it, but she doesn't understand why. And you also get the flashback to the moment where when they were in New Orleans that we kind of skipped over. There's the moment where Graves comes for her, and because of what's going on with Wiley and Shepard at that moment, she doesn't leave because she's drawn to Wiley for some reason, but like she doesn't leave.
Even though Shepard says
you're going to regret it.
Like go with him.
Yeah.
Shepard says you're supposed to go with him.
Yeah.
And she refuses both Shepard and Graves.
Yes.
Both of them are saying you should be going with him now.
Yeah, it's time for you to go with him. And she doesn't, and he tells her, he's like, you're gonna regret this, but they, like everything else, they give her the free choice to do it. So what did you think of this whole final chapter here? Because it looked like, oh, Shepard's gonna walk away again, and then nope. What did you think, Adam?
Yeah, that was pretty much a shock. I still wonder what happened with Dizzy to make that happen, because I mean, she had, was, I don't want to say in love with Shepard, but loved him.
Yes,
definitely. Even found out his first name. No one else seemed to know his first name.
Yeah.
And then what caused her to just hear the word and just shoot him? Was that just a reaction, sort of like the punch that Wiley done to the wall? And then other reactions other people had done.
Yeah.
Or was that something that was programmed into her?
Yeah, because I mean, the background we have on Dizzy before all this started was that she was a teenager when she went to prison. She gets out, she gets the case, she goes with Graves for a very short period, but he basically takes her right to Shepard, and then she's been traveling with Shepard and training to do this. So, I mean, if she wasn't part of this from before, when she was younger, then did Shepard program her to do that? I mean, like, who else really had time to program her to react the way she does? What did you think of this, John? When we get this reveal, what happens to Shepard?
I mean, the first time I read it, I was furious. I will say, I like Shepard a lot. He's clearly dead. The coyotes are freaking eating the guy at the end. Yeah. Like it's bad news. And I was mad.
This is not Lono coming back a chapter later.
And I had just read issue 50, which I loved, and this Hardway storyline that I was loving with Wiley. And I was like, this book is hitting on all cylinders. And then I'm like, you killed Shepard. And I was like, so furious. But, as is true with this comic a lot of the way through, is like whenever a character dies, like the emotional reaction is the right reaction. Like they clearly wanted me to have that response of like getting robbed of a character, and the reveal is so phenomenal. Like the Dizzy just hears the word, and then all of a sudden, like his chest is bursting open, and she's like, blam! She just shot him right there in the middle of the gas station. It's like such a great, shocking thing where it's so casual. Typical Wiley's like, it was like Krakoa was the word, I think, and like, bam! Now like shot him right in the chest.
That's the other thing. It's like she spent all this time with Shepard, but Shepard doesn't know the word. And so it had to be from Graves, or it had to be from before that she was
right.
And so then you get the other half of this is obviously Shepard's dying, and his choice to give Lono his job, which sort of pits Lono again. Like, we haven't quite understood the role Shepard was walking here, because he's clearly been working with Graves, but he's clearly still working with the Trust, and he's playing both sides. And Lono's probably not going to play both sides. So
No.
what do you think of this choice that Lono is going to be the new Shepherd, John?
I mean, it's definitely chaos at the center now of our story, right?
Yeah.
Shepard was always this calming,
Yeah, I mean, you replace
influence.
calm. If you were going to replace Shepard, you're calling Victor. I feel like not
Maybe.
the
No.
Mad Dog. It's just like, yeah.
No, I think it definitely creates the chaos that we've been setting up the pieces on the board all this first 50 issues, and we're learning a little bit about the mythology, and now it's like somebody slammed into the board and the pieces are all jostled, and we're like, okay, now the rest of this book is like pieces in motion that don't necessarily know what their intentions are and where this will end up leading them. So I love the pick from a writer standpoint. I'm like, wow, this is going to create a ton of story, right?
Yeah.
From a fan standpoint, I was like, I can't believe Shepard's gone, and I hate this book, and it was an emotion. I had this emotion several times through the series where I was like, God, why did they do this? This is so great, like this. Oh man! And Shepard's loss was like one of the bigger ones.
Yeah. So from my standpoint is like, I've enjoyed Shepard. I was surprised that this is the way he went out, but I wasn't surprised that he went out, I guess, like in terms of, like I didn't expect it. Like when Wiley made the decision, I figured we were going to keep him for a little bit longer, but I kind of figured he was going to be gone before the end game happened. Like, but this was a little quicker than I thought, I guess, just from the way the story's been set up, and he's kind of been the peacemaker between the two sides.
Right.
But I do love, and I want to like get to, he says a line in there because it's pretty clear he doesn't fully understand the game that Graves is playing.
Sure.
And he basically says a line at one point. He's like, well, I assume he hates Augustus, but yet he seems to be doing every move he seems to be doing seems to be giving Augustus more power. And so I was very curious if you guys had any thoughts on, him giving that information to Lono, and Lono now knows the word to wake everybody up. Although I feel like almost all of them are awake at this point. But Damers, what did you think of
four? I think there's 3 of them in the shadows that we hadn't really saw.
Maybe 3 left or something like that. Yeah.
I'm wondering if he realized that he couldn't, at the end, really couldn't be a peacemaker between the two. Yeah. And, was like, okay, I'll give it to both sides.
Yeah.
Calls Lono and gives Lono all the info he had, the secret word, all that. Tell Dizzy that, it's not her fault,
Yeah.
Just tons of info that, as much as he could in that time, and hopefully, turn over the apple cart, for lack of a better term.
For sure. Okay. Final thoughts here on these 2 volumes. There's not much to have final thoughts about. So these were pretty boring. Not a lot happening. Adam, you want to go first? I think we'll give John the final word. I think you'll go, I'll go, and then we'll give John the final word, since I think he loves these volumes so much. So
they were really good volumes. So much happened in them, so many twists and turns. I've really enjoyed the story so far. All the volumes. The past 3 volumes, I think, have been the best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With all the twists and turns, these 2, I don't know which one of those, the past 3, would be my favorite, but those 3 are so far definitely the best.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think the story has part of the way. I mean, that we've moved past the setup and we're into things are in motion at this point, and we've gotten most of the we now know most of the pieces. There's probably still a few pieces we have yet to, because we just barely got Victor. There's probably still a few pieces that we don't completely understand or know. But I feel like at this point we know most of the pieces. In some ways, the Loop and Lono, I'm glad we got more Lono. I really enjoyed the Loop and Lono story. Like John said, issue 50 is, the botched robbery. Like I said, I said it at the beginning. I had the Reservoir Dogs thought process the whole way through of like what was happening there, and then at the end, it's just them mowing them down. And then obviously the Wiley story, I think, is, I would have said before the Wiley story that the story with Milo was the best story in terms of like his journey. But I think this journey with Wiley was better, which is saying a lot, that it was how good this was. And I feel like, yeah, the Shepard thing is, I didn't expect it to happen, but it's clear that this is what finally is going to kick off the end game. Like Shepard being taken off the board is what's finally going to force everything to start moving. Because they've sort of been playing, Graves and everybody else has been sort of like slow playing this, like, okay, like, well, I'm going to manipulate this and I'm going to wake this guy up, and we're going to slowly get ready for whatever's going to happen here. And it's clear that that the end game is now being kicked off. When you throw Lono in the middle, shit's going to happen. And I am curious, and I go back to this, and this is just a thought, and John obviously won't give it away because he's read this. But the act that kicked this off, supposedly, that the Minutemen did, was they basically wiped out this whole group. And Augustus supposedly asked them to do it again, and Graves refused. And now we have two families that are gone. Shepard is off the board. Like, we've lost some of the Minutemen. I'm wondering did Shepard refuse? Or is this actually, is he wiping, are he and Augustus in this together, and are they wiping the board for Augustus, like, in a way? I don't know. That's just, did he refuse or did he not? Is that just a story? Like, is this the story they told everybody? Like, so I'm very curious to see where this goes. John, you get final words on these two volumes.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are 5, 6, 7. They're all really wonderful, and the mythology is working, and the metaphors are all really interesting, and the twists are all exciting, and the characters dying or like Lono coming back to life are all kind of wonderful. And so, yeah, this is where this feels like it's all just hitting on all cylinders. And I really do feel this is the peak for me.
Right.
It's not to say that 9, 10, 11, 12, the last 5 volumes are trash or anything like that. But I think it does struggle.
The last 5 volumes are trash, and we should read them, man.
I do think it's hard for it to keep and sustain this level.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think it's bad by any means, but there's just, it's I'm excited to read I think I've probably read those last 5 volumes the least, versus I've probably read 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. More than probably any other volumes in this run. 1, 5, 6, and 7 are probably the ones I've read the most often, that I go back and revisit from time to time. So I'm excited to kind of do, was it 5, 6? No, 5, 7, and 8. Sorry, I keep saying it wrong.
6, 7, and 8, I think is what you're.
Yeah, because the counter 5th detective is.
Okay, 5, 7, and 8. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm excited for 9 through 13 and kind of going back to it at some point and seeing how well it ties together, or what I like or don't like about it. But I do feel like there's a lot of method to the madness of killing this character or bringing this character back, or this plot twist or that. I do think that there is some deeper thinking happening that makes it enjoyable for the long form storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. We got 5. We're 8 volumes down, 5 volumes to go. We've gotten through this monstrosity of a omnibus. I forget how many pages, but it's like
over 1,300. I know.
Yeah, over 1,300 pages. I forget, but it's a lot. But it's been really good. I am glad that we've taken this journey, John. So looking forward to what comes next in Omnibus 2. We haven't scheduled it yet, but we'll be back at some point. Thank you to Tony for hanging out with us and annoying John as much as possible. We always appreciate that. Gordon in the house. Coach Vic was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but hopefully. Kenneth Bird. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us. And yeah, we're going to wrap it up right there. I will be back tomorrow night. Talking Fear Agent with Bearded and Unruly. We'll be talking the first 10 issues of Fear Agent by Rick Remender. John, you got anything you want to like? You got your videos coming out this week or anything you want to shout out?
I was going to say my Thursday video is the books of Rick Remender and the comics of Rick Remender, so it fits in keeping with your theme. So that's going to be coming up on Thursday for the channel. So definitely go and check that out.
All right, nice. Damers, are you going to do like a PlanetCon recap, or are you just like, I'll do content by never?
Yeah. Somewhere in between the two. No, I'll probably do a recap.
Nice. Or are you just going to hop on Marcus's here after we get done and do it there? And be done?
Probably hop on Marcus's, but I may, I plan on doing a video.
Okay, nice.
My God.
A rare Daymares video. Awesome.
Yeah.
So always look forward to that.
Start getting into that.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. And with that, I hit the wrong button. With that, we're going to get out of here. Later.